After 43 years of giving everything to my daughter, it took her 43 seconds to demand I sign away my life. I was standing at my kitchen sink on that Thursday afternoon, washing collard greens for Sunday dinner like I'd done every week since Michelle was born. The November sun was streaming through the yellow curtains I'd sewn myself back in 1985, the same year my late husband Jerome and I bought this house with our bare hands' worth of savings. The radio was playing Shirley Caesar, and I was humming along, thinking about how blessed I was to still be in my own home at 73, still able to cook for my family, still able to serve the Lord at Greater Faith Baptist every Sunday. I heard the back door slam. Not open. Slam. The kind of slam that rattled the dishes in my cabinet and made my heart skip. "Mama?" Michelle's voice cut through the kitchen like a knife through butter, sharp and cold. She never called me Mama anymore. It was always Ruth or Mother when she wanted something, which was getting to be more and more often these days. I turned around, water still dripping from my hands, and saw my daughter standing there with her husband Brad right behind her. Something about the way they positioned themselves, Michelle blocking the door to the hallway, Brad blocking the back door, made my stomach drop. I'd seen enough nature documentaries to know what a trap looked like. "Hey, baby," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I didn't know y'all were coming by today. Let me dry my hands and I'll fix you some—" "We're not here for food," Brad interrupted, and the disrespect in his tone made my jaw clench. This man, who I'd welcomed into my family 6 years ago, who I'd helped with his business when it was failing, who ate at my table every Sunday, was talking to me like I was nothing. Michelle stepped forward, and I barely recognized her. My baby girl, who I'd raised from age 5 after her mama, my best friend Shanice, died in that car accident. The little girl who used to climb into my lap and tell me I was the best mama in the whole world. The woman standing in front of me now had Shanice's high cheekbones and full lips, but her eyes were cold, calculating. Eyes I'd never seen on her before. "We need to talk about your finances," Michelle said, pulling out one of my kitchen chairs and sitting down like she owned the place. Brad stayed standing, his arms crossed, looking like hired muscle. "My finances?" I laughed, but it came out nervous. "Baby, I'm getting by just fine. My pension from the hospital, Jerome's Social Security benefits, and—" "That's exactly what we need to talk about," Michelle cut me off. She pulled papers from her designer purse, a purse that cost more than my monthly grocery budget, I'd noticed. "Brad and I have been discussing your situation, and we think it's time you faced reality. You're 73 years old, Mama. You can't keep living alone in this big house. What if you fall? What if you have another episode like last year?" My hand instinctively went to my chest. Last year, I'd had a spell of high blood pressure that landed me in the emergency room for a few hours. Michelle had insisted it was a heart attack, even after the doctors said it wasn't. She'd been bringing it up ever since. "The doctor said I was fine," I said quietly. "It was just stress from trying to maintain a house you can't afford," Brad interjected. "Michelle showed me your bills. You're barely scraping by." That was a lie. A bold-faced lie. Yes, I was careful with money, had to be on a fixed income, but my bills were paid, my house was paid off, and I had savings. Not much, but enough for emergencies. "I managed just fine," I said, my voice getting stronger. "And I don't recall showing you my bills, Michelle. My daughter didn't even have the grace to look ashamed." "I'm your power of attorney, Mama. I have access to your accounts. It's my responsibility to look after you." Power of attorney. Those words made my blood run cold. I'd signed that paper 2 years ago when I had a minor surgery, just temporary, just in case something happened while I was under anesthesia. Michelle had promised she'd tear it up afterward. Clearly she hadn't. "That was supposed to be temporary," I said. "Well, it's still active," Brad said with a smirk that made me want to slap it off his face. "And it's a good thing, too, because someone needs to make the tough decisions." Before we continue, please drop a comment. If you've ever experienced something like this, we'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Michelle pulled out more papers and spread them across my kitchen table. The same table where I'd helped her with homework, where we'd had Christmas dinners, where I'd taught her to bake her first cake. We've found a nice assisted living facility about 40 minutes from here, very affordable. They have activities, nurses on staff, and I'm not going to a nursing home, I said firmly. I'm perfectly capable of. It's not up for discussion. Michelle's voice rose. Either you agree to go or. She paused, exchanging a look with Brad that chilled me to my bones. Or we'll have to take more drastic measures. What kind of measures? I asked, even though part of me didn't want to know. Brad stepped closer, towering over me. We can have you declared mentally incompetent. Michelle has documented several instances of you forgetting things, getting confused. That's not true. I backed up against the sink. I've never been confused. I'm sharper than most people half my age. That's not what the nursing home will think when they see our documentation, Michelle said coldly. But it doesn't have to go that way, Mama. We're offering you a choice. A good choice. You sign over your pension payments, your Social Security, Jerome's benefits, all of it goes into an account we manage. We'll use it to pay for your care at the facility. We'll handle everything. You won't have to worry about bills or maintenance or any of it. My mind was reeling. And what happens to my house? We'll sell it, of course, Brad said like it was obvious. The equity will help cover your care costs. The market's good right now. We could probably get $400,000 for it. Easy. $400,000. For the house Jerome and I had poured our lives into. The house where we'd raised Michelle. The house where I'd planned to die, Lord willing, surrounded by family and love. And where would I go while you're taking care of things? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Michelle's face softened slightly. And for a moment I saw my baby girl again. You'd move in with us temporarily, just until a spot opens up at Shady Meadows. Shady Meadows? I gasped. That place was on the news. They had a scandal about neglect, about patients. That was years ago. Brad waved his hand dismissively. They're under new management. And honestly, Ruth, beggars can't be choosers. At your age, with your health issues... I don't have health issues, my voice cracked. One blood pressure scare doesn't make me an invalid. You're being dramatic. Michelle stood up, her voice turning harder. We're trying to help you, and you're acting like we're the enemy. Help me? I felt tears burning my eyes. You want to take my house, my money, my independence, put me in a home with a bad reputation, and you call that help? We call it being realistic, Brad said. You're old, Ruth. You had a good run, but it's time to face facts. You can't take care of yourself anymore. I take care of myself just fine. I cook, I clean, I drive to church every Sunday, I volunteer at the community center twice a week, You won't be doing any of that anymore, Michelle said quietly, and something in her tone made me realize this wasn't a discussion. This was a threat. What are you saying? I asked, my hand reaching for the cross pendant Jerome had given me on our 20th anniversary. I touched it when I was scared, like I was touching his strength. Brad pulled out another set of papers. We're saying you have two choices, Ruth. Either you sign these papers today, right now, transferring financial authority to us, agreeing to the sale of the house, and accepting placement at Shady Meadows, or what? I whispered. Or we file for emergency guardianship tomorrow morning, Michelle said, her voice flat and emotionless. We have Dr. Patterson's statement about your episode last year. We have documentation of unpaid bills. My bills aren't unpaid. We have testimony from neighbors about your erratic behavior. What neighbors? What behavior? I've lived on this street for 40 years. Everyone knows me. We have Mrs. Chen's statement about you forgetting to bring in your trash cans 3 weeks in a row, Brad said, reading from a paper. We have the mailman's report about your mail piling up when you were at your brother's house for a week. I was visiting Tom. I told the post office to hold my mail. The judge won't see it that way, Michelle said coldly. the judge will see a pattern of cognitive decline in an elderly woman living alone. And once we get emergency guardianship, you won't have any choice at all. We'll do whatever we think is best. At least this way, you get some input." I felt like I was drowning. My own daughter. My baby girl. The child I'd raised as my own when her mother died, never telling her the truth because I didn't want her to feel different or less than. I'd loved her exactly the same as I would have loved any biological child. I'd given up dating after Jerome died because I wanted to focus on her. I'd worked double shifts at the hospital to pay for her college. I'd taken out a second mortgage to help her and Brad buy their first house. And this was how she repaid me. "Michelle, baby," I tried one more time, my voice breaking. "Why are you doing this? What happened to you? You used to be so sweet, so caring. You used to tell me you'd never let me be alone, that you'd take care of me when I got old. Remember? Remember when you were 16 and we watched that movie about the nursing home and you cried and promised you'd never send me away?" For just a second, I saw something flicker in Michelle's eyes. Guilt? Shame? But then Brad put his hand on her shoulder, and whatever I'd seen vanished. "That was before I understood how expensive elder care is," Michelle said. "Before I understood how much you're sitting on while claiming to be broke. Do you know what your pension alone is worth? $3,800 a month. Add Jerome's benefits, your Social Security. You're bringing in over $6,000 a month and claiming you're struggling. I have expenses, property taxes, insurance, utilities, food, medicine, which would all be covered at Shady Meadows for $4,000 a month," Brad interrupted. "That leaves $2,000 a month excess. Over a year, that's $24,000 that could be helping Michelle and me with our expenses. Do you know how much we spent on Christmas gifts for you last year? Or taking you out for Mother's Day? Or—" "I never asked you for any of that," I shouted. "I never asked for expensive gifts or fancy dinners. I just wanted my family to love me." "Love doesn't pay bills," Michelle said sharply. "Now stop being selfish and sign the papers." Selfish. She called me selfish. Me, who had given her everything. Me, who had raised her as my own, loved her as my own, never breathed a word about the truth of her birth because I didn't want her to feel abandoned. My hand moved to my cardigan pocket, where my phone sat. I'd called my brother Tom earlier, right before Michelle arrived, just to chat like I did most afternoons. We'd been talking about his granddaughter's graduation when Michelle's car pulled up. I'd told Tom to hold on, thinking I'd be right back. I'd never hung up. Had he heard everything? Was he still there? I squeezed the phone through my pocket, hoping, praying he was listening. "Give me the papers," I said quietly, my hand shaking as I reached out. Michelle's face lit up with victory. "You're making the right choice, Mama. You'll see. Shady Meadows is really nice and—" "I didn't say I was signing them," I interrupted. "I said give them to me so I can read them properly. You taught me never to sign anything without reading it first, remember? You learned that from me." Brad's jaw clenched. "There's nothing to read. It's all standard." "Then you won't mind me reading it," I said firmly. I took the papers to my kitchen table and sat down, putting on my reading glasses. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the papers, but I forced myself to focus. The words swam in front of my eyes. Irrevocable power of attorney, transfer of deed, assignment of benefits, authorization for medical decisions. I was signing away everything, not just my money and my house, but my very autonomy. Once I signed these papers, Michelle and Brad would control every aspect of my life. "Well?" Brad demanded after what couldn't have been more than 30 seconds. "We don't have all day." "These papers?" I looked up at them. "These papers say you get everything immediately, even before I move into Shady Meadows, even if I change my mind." "That's standard," Michelle said impatiently. "And this clause here," I pointed with a shaking finger, "says I can't revoke the power of attorney without your consent. That's not standard. That's protection," Brad snapped. "Protection against you getting confused and making poor decisions. We're protecting you from yourself, Ruth." "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" Michelle blinked. "Get out of my house," I said louder, standing up. "I'm not signing these papers today. I'm not signing them ever. And if you try to file for guardianship, I'll fight you with every breath in my body." Brad's face turned red. "You ungrateful old—" "Brad!" Michelle grabbed his arm, but she was glaring at me too. "Fine. Have it your way. But when we come back with the sheriff and a court order, don't say we didn't try to do this the nice way." "The nice way?" I laughed, but it came out like a sob. "You call threatening me, lying about me, trying to steal my home the nice way? What's the mean way, Michelle? What else could you possibly do to me?" Michelle leaned in close, and I saw my best friend Shanice's face, but twisted with something Shanice never had: cruelty. "We can make your life a living hell, Mama. We can make sure none of your grandchildren are allowed to see you. We can tell everyone at church that you're losing your mind. We can make sure that when you finally do end up in a home, and you will, it's the cheapest, nastiest place we can find. So you'd better think very carefully about whether you want to cooperate or make this difficult." They left then, slamming the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. It was a photo of Michelle's high school graduation, her smiling face looking up at me with so much love and pride. The glass had cracked right down the middle, splitting her face in two. I sank into my kitchen chair, my whole body shaking. The tears came then, hot and fierce. Tears for the daughter I thought I had. Tears for the grandmother I might never get to be anymore. Tears for the life that was being ripped away from me by the very person I'd sacrificed everything for. "Ruth, baby sister, are you still there?" Tom's voice, tinny and distant, came from my pocket. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. "Tom," I sobbed. "Did you hear? Did you hear what she—" "I heard every word," my brother said, and his voice had a quality I'd rarely heard. Tom was usually so mild-mannered, so soft-spoken. People underestimated him all the time. But right now, his voice was steel. Every single word. "She's going to take everything," I cried. "She's going to put me in that horrible place and—" "No," Tom said firmly. "She's not. Ruth, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Are they gone? Completely gone?" I went to the window and watched Michelle's Mercedes pull out of my driveway, tires squealing. "Yes, they're gone." "Good. Now I need you to go to your bedroom, get your important papers, birth certificate, Jerome's death certificate, property deed, everything, and put them in a bag. Then I need you to pack a suitcase like you're going to stay with me for a week." "Can you do that?" "Tom, what? Can you do that?" he repeated. "Yes, but—" "Do it now. I'm calling some people who can help. I'll be there in 45 minutes. Don't answer the door for anyone but me. Don't call anyone. Don't post anything on Facebook. Just pack and wait. Can you do that for me?" Something in his voice made me trust him completely. "Okay. One more thing, Ruth. This recording, everything I just heard, I need you to not delete it from your call history. In fact, I need you to plug your phone into the charger right now and don't touch it until I get there. Can you do that?" "Yes, but Tom, you're scaring me. What's happening?" There was a long pause. "What's happening is that Michelle and Brad just made the biggest mistake of their lives. And what's about to happen is justice, real justice. Now go pack." He hung up, and I stood there in my kitchen, the afternoon sun still streaming through those yellow curtains. Shirley Caesar still singing on the radio about God making a way out of no way. My hands had stopped shaking. Something in Tom's voice had given me strength I didn't know I had. I went to my bedroom and pulled out my lockbox from the closet. Inside were all my important documents, carefully organized in folders just like Jerome had taught me. As I pulled out the property deed, I saw something I'd forgotten was there. A sealed envelope with my name on it in Tom's handwriting, dated 3 years ago. I turned it over, and written on the back in his neat script, "To be opened if Michelle ever shows her true colors." My hands started shaking again. How long had Tom known? How long had he been waiting for this moment? I tore open the envelope and pulled out a letter. "Dear Ruth," it read in Tom's careful handwriting. "If you're reading this, it means the day I've been dreading has finally come. I'm writing this to tell you things I should have told you years ago, but I was hoping, praying I'd never have to. Michelle knows about Shanice. She's known since she was 18. She found her birth certificate when she was applying for college, and instead of coming to you, she came to me. She wanted to know if there was money, not about her mother, not about her family history, not about Shanice's love or sacrifice. Just money. I told her there was nothing. I lied to protect you, to protect what you and Michelle had. But she's been watching ever since, waiting to see if I was telling the truth. There's more, Ruth. So much more. But that has to wait until we can talk face to face. Just know this. Everything that's happening now isn't spontaneous. Michelle has been planning this for a long time, and I've been planning longer. Trust me, I've got you. Your big brother has always got you. Tom. I sank onto my bed, the letter falling from my hands. Michelle had known. For 9 years, she'd known she wasn't my biological daughter and had said nothing, had been acting, pretending, waiting. My phone buzzed with a text. "Michelle, you have 72 hours to change your mind. After that, we file paperwork, and you'll never see your grandchildren again. Your choice." I stared at that message, and something shifted inside me. I'd been prepared to roll over, to let them win because they were family, because I loved them, because I didn't know how to fight. But reading Tom's letter, hearing the steel in his voice, remembering every sacrifice I'd made, every prayer I'd prayed, every tear I'd cried, something inside me hardened. I texted back, "Try it." Then I started packing. I was loading my suitcase into my car when Tom's Cadillac pulled up, but he wasn't alone. 2 people got out with him. A woman in a business suit carrying a briefcase, and a younger man with a camera. "Ruth," Tom said, hugging me tight. "This is Patricia Morrison. She's a lawyer, and this is Darius from Channel 7 News." I pulled back, confused. "Tom, what?" "Ruth," Patricia said gently. "I'm an elder law attorney. Your brother has been my client for several years, and he's asked me to help you. What happened today? The threats, the coercion, the attempt to force you to sign documents. That's elder abuse. It's also fraud and extortion." "We want to do a story," Darius added. "Elder financial abuse is epidemic, and your story could help so many people. But only if you're comfortable." I looked at Tom, really looked at him. My older brother, who I'd always thought was just scraping by on his janitor's retirement. My brother who drove a 20-year-old car and wore clothes from Walmart and lived in a tiny apartment. "Tom," I said slowly, "what's really going on?" My brother smiled, and it was the saddest smile I'd ever seen. "Let's go inside, baby sister. It's time you knew everything." We sat in my living room, me, Tom, Patricia, and Darius. Patricia had her briefcase open, pulling out documents. Darius had his camera set up but not recording yet, waiting for permission. "Ruth," Tom began, "do you remember when I retired from the courthouse 15 years ago?" "You were a janitor there," I said. "No, sweetheart. I was a judge, a federal judge. I retired with full pension and benefits. I also had been investing wisely for 40 years. I blinked at him. "A judge? But you always said—" "I never actually said I was a janitor. I said I worked at the courthouse, and you assumed. I let you assume because—" He paused, his eyes getting wet. "Because I wanted to see how people treated me when they thought I had nothing. I wanted to see which family members loved Tom the person versus Tom the successful man." "Why would you—" Because I have $100 million, Ruth, and I need to leave it to someone who won't destroy themselves with it. Someone with character, integrity, someone like you. The room spun. $100 million, Tom, that's not real? It's very real. And for the past 3 years since I wrote that letter, I've been testing everyone. Michelle failed spectacularly. She visited me twice last year asking for loans for Brad's business. When I said I didn't have money, she stopped visiting altogether. Patricia pulled out a tablet and turned it toward me. Mr. Washington has been documenting everything. He has recordings, photographs, written logs. When he called me an hour ago and played me what happened in your kitchen, I immediately began filing emergency injunctions. Injunctions? I whispered. Michelle can't touch your accounts, your house, or your benefits. As of 45 minutes ago, temporary restraining orders are in place. She'll be served tomorrow morning. But that's not all, Tom said, and his voice got hard again. Ruth, there's something else you need to know. Something about Michelle. About why she's doing this now. He pulled out a thick folder and handed it to me. Inside were bank statements, trust documents, and a letter from a law firm. Shanice, Tom said quietly, set up a trust fund for Michelle before she died. $10 million. It was supposed to be kept secret until Michelle turned 25, then she'd get income from it. The principal was supposed to go to her at 45. I stared at the numbers. 10 million? You knew Shanice came from money. Her parents were wealthy. When they died, she inherited everything. She wanted to make sure Michelle would be taken care of if anything happened to her. She made me the trustee and made me promise never to tell Michelle about it until she was old enough to handle it responsibly. But she's been getting payments? I asked, looking at the statements. Monthly deposits of $15,000 going back 6 years. Since she was 25, she's been receiving $180,000 a year from her mother's trust fund, while telling you she's struggling financially, while borrowing money from you, while demanding you hand over your pension. The betrayal was so deep I couldn't process it. Why? If she has all that money, why does she want mine? Tom's face was grim. Because Brad has a gambling problem. He's in debt to some very bad people. They've burned through Michelle's trust income and now they're desperate. Your pension, your Social Security, Jerome's benefits, that's guaranteed income they can use to pay off debts and keep gambling. Patricia leaned forward. There's a morality clause in Shanice's trust. If Michelle engages in criminal activity or elder abuse, she loses everything. The principal goes to charity. The monthly income stops immediately. Which is why, Tom said, when this recording goes to the judge tomorrow, along with all my other documentation, Michelle won't just lose access to your money. She'll lose her trust fund. All of it. I couldn't speak. Couldn't think. $10 million. Michelle had $10 million and still wanted to take everything from me. Mrs. Washington, Darius spoke up gently, would you be willing to let me tell this story? Change the names if you want, but people need to know this is happening. Elder abuse is... Use my real name, I said suddenly. Use all our names. Let everyone know exactly what Michelle and Brad tried to do. Tom smiled, but his eyes were sad. There's one more thing, Ruth. Michelle isn't the only one who's going to be shocked tomorrow. What do you mean? I mean, Tom said slowly, that you're not going to Shady Meadows. You're not losing your house. And you're not going to be worrying about money ever again. Because I'm changing my will tonight. Everything I have, every single penny, is going to you. Tom, no. Yes, he said firmly. You're my sister. You raised that girl with love and grace, never asking for anything, never demanding recognition. You worked yourself to the bone to give her a good life. You're exactly the kind of person who should have money because you'll use it to help others. But what about your kids? Your grandkids? My kids are successful and don't need it. My grandkids have trust funds. You're the one who needs protection, Ruth. You're the one who deserves it. I started crying then. really crying, and Tom held me while Patricia quietly explained legal proceedings and Darius respectfully waited. By the time they left, 3 hours later, I had signed papers appointing Patricia as my attorney, given permission for Darius to run the story, and agreed to Tom's plan. I also had a new will drawn up, leaving everything to my grandchildren, Michelle's kids, with Tom as trustee until they turned 30. If Michelle really loved her children, she'd want them protected. If she didn't, well, they'd be protected anyway. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, the teenager who brought me flowers on Mother's Day, the young woman who cried at my husband's funeral and promised she'd take care of me. Where had that girl gone? When had money become more important than family? My phone buzzed at 11 p.m. Another text from Michelle. Last chance. Sign the papers or lose everything. We're filing tomorrow at 9 a.m. I looked at that text for a long time. Then I forwarded it to Patricia with a note. More evidence. She texted back immediately. Perfect. See you in court. I fell asleep finally around 2 a.m., and I dreamed of Shanice. She was sitting in my kitchen drinking sweet tea like we used to do every Sunday afternoon, and she was crying. I'm sorry, she said in my dream. I'm so sorry I left you to deal with this. I thought if I left her enough money, she'd never have to struggle. I thought money would protect her. Money doesn't protect anyone, I heard myself say. Love protects, family protects, faith protects. Money just shows you who people really are. Shanice nodded sadly. Take care of my baby, Ruth. Even now, even after all this, she's still my baby. I woke up crying, Shanice's words echoing in my head. The next morning at 8 a.m. there was pounding on my door. I looked out the window and saw Michelle's Mercedes in the driveway, along with a police car. My heart stopped. They'd actually called the police. They were actually doing this. I opened the door to find Michelle, Brad, a police officer, and a man in a suit I didn't recognize. Mrs. Washington, the man in the suit said. I'm Drew Griffin, attorney for your daughter Michelle. We have papers here for emergency guardianship based on your mental incompetence and... She's not signing anything. Patricia's voice came from behind them. I hadn't even heard her car pull up. She strode up my walkway in a power suit and heels that clicked like a gavel. And you might want to check your phone, counselor, because there are papers waiting for you too. Drew pulled out his phone, and his face went pale. What? Emergency restraining orders against your clients, cease and desist orders, and a notice that criminal charges for elder abuse, fraud, and extortion are being filed within the hour. Patricia smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Your move, counselor. Michelle's face went from confused to shocked to furious in 3 seconds. What did you do? She turned on me. What did you do, you stupid old woman? I protected myself, I said quietly. Something you taught me to do, remember? Never let anyone take advantage of you, you used to say. I guess I should have realized you were teaching me to watch out for you. The police officer, who'd been standing there looking increasingly uncomfortable, cleared his throat. Ma'am, is there a problem here? Yes, officer, Patricia said smoothly, handing him papers. These individuals attempted to extort my client yesterday. We have recordings, evidence, and multiple witnesses. I believe you'll find criminal charges have already been filed. Michelle's face went white. Recording? What recording? The one where you threatened to take everything from your mother unless she signed over her assets, Patricia said calmly. The one where you threatened to keep her from her grandchildren. The one where you and your husband outlined your entire plan to defraud an elderly woman. That recording. Brad grabbed Michelle's arm. We need to leave. Now. You're not going anywhere. Tom's voice came from the street. He was walking up with another police officer and a woman with a briefcase. Not until you've been served properly. The woman stepped forward and handed papers to Michelle and Brad. You're both being sued in civil court for elder abuse and fraud. You're also being investigated for criminal charges. And Michelle, there's one more thing." She handed Michelle a certified letter. "The trustees of your mother Shanice's estate have been notified of your actions. As per the morality clause in your trust agreement, all payments are suspended immediately pending investigation. Should the charges be substantiated, you will lose access to the trust permanently." Michelle's knees actually buckled. Brad had to hold her up. "No," she whispered. "No, that's everything. That's all your money?" I said, and my voice was stronger than I'd ever heard it. "Yes, baby. That's all your money. The money your real mama left you. The money you never told me about while you were stealing from me. The money you were getting while claiming you were struggling. All of it. Gone. Just like you wanted to do to me." Michelle looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw the exact moment she realized she'd lost everything. Not just the money, but me, her mother, the woman who'd raised her, loved her, sacrificed for her. "Mama," she said, and her voice broke. "Mama, I wasn't." "You were," I said simply. "You were exactly who you showed yourself to be. I just wish I'd seen it sooner." "Ma'am," the police officer said to Patricia, "do you want to press charges right now or—" "The paperwork is already filed," Patricia said, "but Mrs. Washington has requested that her daughter and son-in-law be given 24 hours to vacate any claims to her property, her finances, or her life. After that, full prosecution." Michelle and Brad stumbled back to their car, Drew Griffin trailing behind them, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. The police officers left after taking statements. Tom, Patricia, and I went back inside my house. I couldn't find words. "That was just the beginning," Tom said grimly. "Ruth, they're not going to go quietly. When people like that lose everything, they get dangerous. You need to be prepared for—" My phone rang. It was Candace, Michelle's oldest daughter. My grandbaby. "Grandma?" Her voice was crying. "Grandma, Mom is freaking out. She's screaming about you and Uncle Tom and lawyers and money, and Dad is throwing things, and I'm scared. Can you come get us?" My heart broke all over again. The children. I'd been so focused on fighting Michelle that I'd forgotten. The children were caught in the middle of this. "Baby, where are you?" "We're at home, but Mom said she's taking us away. She said we can't ever see you again. She said you tried to steal from her and— Grandma, I don't believe that. I know you. But she's scaring me and—" "I'm coming," I said immediately. "You stay in your room with your brothers. Lock the door. I'm coming right now." I hung up and looked at Tom and Patricia. "We have to get the children. Michelle's going to use them against me. She's going to take them and—" "We'll get them," Tom said firmly. "Patricia, can we—" "Emergency custody based on parental instability." Patricia was already typing on her phone. "Judge Morrison owes me a favor. Give me 15 minutes. She stepped outside, talking rapidly into her phone. Tom looked at me. "Ruth, are you sure? If you do this, if you take custody of those kids, this war with Michelle goes nuclear." "Those babies are scared," I said, and I felt something settle inside me. A certainty. A strength. "Those babies are scared and they're innocent in all this. I didn't fight for 43 years just to abandon them now." Tom smiled. "That's my sister." "All right then. Let's go to war." Patricia came back inside, her face triumphant. "We have an emergency order for temporary custody pending a hearing Monday morning, but we need to get there now, and we need police escort." She made another call, and within 20 minutes we had 2 police cars, Patricia's car, Tom's Cadillac, and Darius's news van pulling up to Michelle and Brad's house. Michelle came running out when she saw us. "You can't have them! You can't take my children!" "Actually," Patricia said calmly, holding up papers, Judge Morrison has granted temporary emergency custody to Mrs. Ruth Washington based on reports of parental instability and risk to minors. You can contest it Monday, but for now, the children are coming with their grandmother." "No!" Michelle screamed. "This is kidnapping. This is the law," one of the police officers said firmly. "Ma'am, please step aside." I walked up to that house, the house I'd helped Michelle and Brad buy, the house where I'd spent every Sunday for the past 6 years. And I rang the doorbell. Candace opened it, her face tear-stained, her brothers behind her. "Grandma," she sobbed, throwing herself into my arms. "Grandma, I knew you'd come." Behind me, Michelle was screaming threats, promising lawsuits, swearing revenge. Brad was yelling at the police officers. Darius's camera was capturing every moment, but I just held my grandbabies and whispered, "It's okay now. Grandma's got you. Everything's going to be okay." As we drove away from that house, Candace in the front seat holding my hand, her brothers in the back with Tom, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw Michelle collapse on her lawn, Brad trying to hold her up. For just a moment, I felt sorry for her. For the woman who'd had everything, love, family, money, security, and had thrown it all away for greed. But then Candace squeezed my hand and said, "Thank you for saving us, Grandma." And I knew, whatever came next, whatever battles I had to fight, whatever pain I had to endure, I'd do it all again. Because that's what mothers do. Real mothers. The kind who raise children out of love, not obligation. The kind who protect their babies even when those babies aren't babies anymore. The kind of mother I'd always been, and the kind Shanice would have wanted me to be. The war wasn't over. In fact, it was just beginning. But for the first time in 24 hours, I felt like I might actually win. That first night with my grandbabies in my house, I barely slept. Candace, Marcus, and little Jerome, named after my late husband, were in the guest bedroom, piled together like puppies, seeking comfort in each other. Every hour I'd check on them, make sure they were breathing, make sure they were real and safe. At 6 a.m., my phone started ringing. I didn't recognize the number. "Mrs. Washington, this is Detective Lisa Okonkwo from the Elder Abuse Unit. Your attorney, Patricia Morrison, contacted us yesterday. I need to come take your statement about what happened with your daughter and son-in-law." By 7 a.m., Detective Okonkwo was sitting at my kitchen table, recording everything. She was a tall black woman with kind eyes and a notebook she filled with detailed notes as I talked. She asked me to start from the beginning, not just Thursday's confrontation, but everything. Every time Michelle had asked for money, every guilt trip, every threat. "How much money have you given her over the years?" Detective Okonkwo asked. I pulled out my records. I'd kept everything, thank the Lord. $47,000 in the last 3 years. $20,000 for Brad's business investment. $12,000 for their roof repair. $15,000 in smaller amounts for emergencies. And she's been receiving $15,000 a month from her trust fund this entire time? "Yes, ma'am." Detective Okonkwo's jaw tightened. "Mrs. Washington, this is one of the clearest cases of elder financial abuse I've seen in 15 years. With the recording, the documents, the pattern of behavior, we can prosecute." "I want to," I said firmly. "Not because I'm angry. I am angry, don't get me wrong. But because if Michelle did this to me, she'll do it to someone else's mother someday." The detective smiled. "That's exactly the right reason." By 8 a.m., word had spread through my neighborhood. My doorbell started ringing. First it was Mrs. Johnson from next door bringing a casserole, then Mr. and Mrs. Davis from across the street with groceries, then Mother Williams from church with her famous sweet potato pie. "We heard what happened," Mother Williams said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like cocoa butter and grace. "Pastor called an emergency prayer circle. Half the church is coming by this morning." "You don't have to," I started. "Child, hush," she interrupted gently. "You've been feeding folks at Greater Faith for 40 years. You think we're gonna let you fight this battle alone? Satan is a liar." By 9 a.m., my living room was full of church members. Not just coming by to say hello, they'd come to strategize. There was Brother Williams, who happened to be a retired accountant. Sister Patricia, different from my lawyer Patricia, who worked at the courthouse. Deacon Morris, who had connections with legal aid. Young Brother Terrence, who was some kind of computer genius. Sister Ruth, Brother Williams said, pulling out a calculator. Tell me every financial transaction with Michelle. Every penny. We're going to document everything. While he worked, Sister Patricia made calls to her contacts at the courthouse, finding out what judges were hearing cases Monday. Deacon Morris was already on the phone with 3 different lawyers, getting quotes for additional representation if we needed it. Young Terrence looked up from his laptop. Sister Ruth, Michelle's been posting on social media. You need to see this. He turned the screen toward me. Michelle had posted on Facebook an hour ago. Heartbroken. My elderly mother has been manipulated by scam artists who are turning her against her own family. Please pray for us as we fight to protect her from financial exploitation. Elder abuse, #family1st. The post had 63 likes and 42 comments, all expressing sympathy for Michelle. My hands started shaking. She's lying. She's telling everyone I'm the one being exploited. Not for long, Terrence said, his fingers flying over the keyboard. I'm compiling the real timeline. Documents, photos, public records. By this afternoon, everyone's going to know the truth. At 10 a.m., Darius from Channel 7 arrived. He'd called ahead asking if he could interview me for the news. I'd said yes. If Michelle wanted to fight dirty, I'd fight with truth. He set up his camera in my living room while my church family bustled around in the background, a visual testament to real community support versus Michelle's social media performance. Mrs. Washington, Darius began gently once the camera was rolling, can you tell our viewers what happened? I took a deep breath and told the story. All of it. The threats, the papers, the attempt to force me into a nursing home, the discovery of Michelle's hidden trust fund. I didn't cry this time. My voice was steady, strong. What do you want people to know? Darius asked. I want them to know this happens. Elder abuse isn't just strangers scamming old folks. Sometimes it's your own children. Sometimes it's the people you loved and sacrificed for. And I want people to know they don't have to accept it. You can fight back. You can protect yourself. When the interview ended, Darius showed me the raw footage. This is going to air tonight at 6 p.m. Mrs. Washington, I think this is going to blow up. He had no idea how right he was. At 11 a.m., my phone rang. It was Patricia. Ruth, we have a problem. Michelle filed an emergency counterpetition. She's claiming you kidnapped the children, that you're mentally unstable, and that she has witnesses who'll testify you're dangerous. Witnesses? What witnesses? She claims Mrs. Chen next door, your mailman, and Dr. Patterson will all testify to your cognitive decline and erratic behavior. I looked out my window. Mrs. Chen was standing on her porch, and when she saw me looking, she waved and smiled. I waved back. Mrs. Chen is here, I said. In my house, helping organize my defense. The mailman story is a lie. I have receipts from the post office showing I requested a hold. And Dr. Patterson already submitted a statement saying I'm in perfect mental health. Patricia was quiet for a moment. She falsified witness statements? Apparently. Oh, Michelle, Patricia said, and I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. You just committed perjury. Ruth, this actually helps us. A lot. See you in court Monday at 9 a.m. sharp. That afternoon, my house became command central. Tom arrived with 3 boxes of documents he'd been collecting. Brother Williams had spreadsheets printed out showing every financial transaction. Sister Patricia had inside information about the judge who'd be hearing our case. Judge Morrison's daughter, actually, which was a good sign. Young Terrence had created a website documenting everything, with public records, timelines, and Michelle's own social media posts showing her real financial situation. Photos of expensive vacations, designer handbags, luxury cars, all while she was claiming poverty and borrowing money from me. At 3 p.m., my phone exploded with notifications. Terrence's website had gone viral. Someone had shared it on Twitter, then Facebook. Then it got picked up by a news aggregator. By 4 p.m., Michelle's Facebook post had been flooded with comments. But they weren't supporting her anymore. They were calling her out. "You have a trust fund but stole from your mother? Those receipts don't lie, Michelle. This is disgusting. Elder abuse is serious. I hope they throw the book at you." At 5 p.m., Brad called. Not Michelle, Brad. His voice was shaking. "Ruth," he said, "no more pretense of respect or family. You need to drop this. You need to drop everything or what, Brad?" I asked calmly. Mother Williams was beside me, her hand on my shoulder. Half my church was in my living room. I wasn't alone. I wasn't scared. "Or you'll regret it," he said. "I have connections. People who what? Are you threatening me, Brad? Because my brother's lawyer is here, and she's recording this call." I heard him suck in a breath. "You're recording every conversation, every text, every threat. Just like you and Michelle should have been more careful about what you said in my kitchen on Thursday." He hung up. At 6 p.m., we all gathered around my TV to watch Darius's story. It was the lead segment. Exclusive: Elderly Oakland mother fights back against family's alleged extortion attempt. The story was devastating. Darius had done his homework. He had Michelle's financial records, photos of her mansion, screenshots of her luxury lifestyle. He contrasted that with footage of my modest home, my church volunteer work, my 43 years as a hospital nurse. He interviewed Detective Okonkwo, who confirmed an active investigation. He interviewed Patricia, who explained the legal process. And he showed my interview, where I calmly, clearly explained what happened. Within an hour, the story had been shared 11,000 times. Michelle's social media accounts had been flooded with so many angry comments she'd deleted them all and made everything private. But the damage was done. Sunday morning, I went to Greater Faith Baptist like I had every Sunday for 43 years. I expected people to stare, to whisper. Instead, I got a standing ovation. Pastor Williams called me up to the front during testimony service. "Sister Ruth, would you like to say a word?" I walked up to that pulpit, and I looked at all those faces, my church family who'd known me for decades, who'd celebrated my joys and mourned my sorrows. "I want to thank y'all," I said, my voice carrying across the sanctuary. "I want to thank you for showing me what real family looks like. Not blood, but love. Not obligation, but choice. Y'all chose to stand with me when my own daughter chose money over mercy." "Amen," somebody shouted. "I won't lie and say this doesn't hurt," I continued. "It hurts worse than anything I've ever felt, worse than losing my husband, because when Jerome died, I lost someone who loved me. With Michelle, I'm losing someone I thought loved me, but maybe never did." The church was silent except for a few mm-hms of agreement. But I'm not giving up. Tomorrow I'm going to court, and I'm going to fight for my grandbabies. I'm going to fight for my home, and I'm going to fight to make sure Michelle faces consequences for what she tried to do. Not because I hate her, I could never hate my child, but because wrong is wrong, and somebody has to stand up and say it. "Preach," Mother Williams called out. "So I'm asking y'all to pray. Pray for justice. Pray for those babies sleeping in my guest room. Pray for wisdom for the judge. And pray for Michelle, because she's going to need it." The choir started singing "Stand" by Donnie McClurkin, and the whole church joined in. People were crying, shouting, praising. It felt like the walls were shaking with the power of it. After service, people lined up to hug me, to press money into my hands, which I politely refused, to promise they'd be in that courtroom Monday morning. "We're taking the day off work," Sister Jackson said. "All of us. We're going to fill that courtroom so the judge knows you have support." You don't have to, I started. Yes, we do, Brother Williams interrupted. You fed my family when I lost my job 5 years ago. You sat with my wife when she had cancer. You babysat my grandkids every Tuesday for 3 years. Now it's our turn. Monday morning came too fast and too slow. I dressed in my best church suit, navy blue with gold buttons, the one I'd worn to Jerome's funeral. I wanted to look dignified, strong, like the woman I was. Tom picked me up at 7:30 a.m. The children were staying with Mother Williams, who'd promised to keep them safe and distracted. When we pulled up to the courthouse at 8:30, I couldn't believe what I saw. There were at least 200 people there, my church family, my neighbors, people from the community center where I volunteered. They'd made signs. We stand with Sister Ruth. Elder abuse is not okay. Protect our seniors. News cameras were everywhere. Darius waved at me, his camera crew filming the crowd. Michelle and Brad arrived 10 minutes later. And the crowd went silent. Not hostile, just silent. A wall of judgment. Michelle looked terrible. No makeup, hair uncombed, wearing jeans and a wrinkled shirt. Brad looked worse. His face was bruised and he was limping. What happened to him? I whispered to Tom. Gambling debts, Tom murmured back. I heard through my sources that his creditors paid him a visit this weekend. That's why they're desperate. Inside the courtroom, Judge Sarah Morrison looked exactly like her mother. Same sharp eyes, same no-nonsense expression. She surveyed the packed courtroom with raised eyebrows. Well, she said dryly, I see this case has generated some interest. Let's proceed. This is a hearing regarding temporary custody of minors Candace Marcus and Jerome Patterson, Jr., currently placed with their grandmother, Ruth Washington, pending this proceeding. Mrs. Patterson, you're the petitioner seeking return of custody. Mrs. Washington, you're the respondent. Both of you have counsel. Let's hear opening statements. Michelle's lawyer, a different one, apparently Drew Griffin had dropped her, stood up. He was young, nervous, clearly in over his head. Your Honor, this is a simple case of parental alienation. Mrs. Patterson's elderly mother, influenced by outside parties, has kidnapped her children and is turning them against their mother. Mrs. Patterson is a devoted mother who— Counsel, Judge Morrison interrupted. I've read the police reports, the emergency custody order, and the allegations of elder abuse. This is not simple, and I suggest you adjust your strategy accordingly. The lawyer sat down. His face red. Patricia stood up, and she was magnificent. Your Honor, this case is indeed not simple. It involves elder financial abuse, fraud, extortion, perjury, and child endangerment. My client, Ruth Washington, is a 73-year-old retired nurse who dedicated her life to raising her daughter Michelle, not her biological daughter, but the child of her deceased best friend, whom she raised with love and devotion. Michelle flinched at that. Maybe she'd forgotten other people now knew her secret. Patricia continued. Mrs. Washington worked double shifts to put Michelle through college. She mortgaged her home to help Michelle buy her first house. She babysat her grandchildren, provided financial support, and loved unconditionally. And how was she repaid? With threats, extortion, and an attempt to steal her life savings. She pulled out a tablet and projected evidence onto the courtroom screen. This is a recording of Michelle Patterson and her husband Brad threatening Mrs. Washington in her own home, demanding she sign over her pension, her Social Security, her late husband's benefits, threatening to have her declared incompetent if she refused. The recording played, Michelle's voice, cold and threatening. Give us the papers, or we'll make your life a living hell. Brad's voice. We can have you declared mentally incompetent. The courtroom was silent, except for a few gasps. Judge Morrison's face was stone. Continue. Furthermore, Your Honor, we have evidence that Michelle Patterson has been receiving $15,000 monthly from a trust fund established by her biological mother, $180,000 annually, while simultaneously claiming poverty and borrowing money from Mrs. Washington. More evidence flashed on the screen. Bank statements, trust documents, text messages from Michelle asking for money while deposits showed in her account. Mrs. Patterson also filed false witness statements, claiming neighbors and doctors would testify to her mother's incompetence. Those witnesses have submitted sworn affidavits stating they made no such statements and, in fact, Mrs. Washington is completely mentally sound. Patricia paused. As for the children, Your Honor, we have a statement from 14-year-old Candace Patterson. She called her grandmother Friday night, terrified because her mother was freaking out and threatening to take them away where they'd never see Grandma again. The children are safe, loved, and thriving in Mrs. Washington's care. To return them to a home where their mother is facing criminal charges and their father is being threatened by loan sharks would be child endangerment. Judge Morrison looked at Michelle. Mrs. Patterson, do you have a response to these allegations? Michelle stood up, and I barely recognized her. Gone was the cold woman from my kitchen. She was crying, makeup running down her face. Your Honor, I made mistakes. I was desperate. Brad's gambling debts. We were going to lose everything. I thought if Mama helped us just this once, we could get back on our feet. I didn't mean to threaten her. I was just scared. You weren't scared Thursday, I said before I could stop myself. You were calculated. You had papers drawn up. You had a plan. You knew exactly what you were doing. Mrs. Washington, Judge Morrison said gently but firmly, please let counsel speak. Sorry, Your Honor, I said, but I wasn't really sorry. Michelle turned to me, and for the first time since this started, she looked me in the eyes. Mama, please. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but they're my children. You can't take my children. You were going to take my life, I said quietly. My home, my money, my freedom. You were going to lock me in Shady Meadows and throw away the key. But you're right. I can't take your children. That's not my decision. I turned to Judge Morrison. Your Honor, I don't want to keep those babies from their mother forever. I want Michelle to get help. Real help. Therapy, financial counseling, whatever she needs to be the mother those children deserve. But right now, today, she's not safe. She's desperate. She's married to a man with dangerous debts, and she's making terrible choices. Judge Morrison nodded slowly. Mrs. Patterson, are the allegations about your husband's gambling debts true? Michelle looked at Brad, then back at the judge. Yes, Your Honor. How much does he owe? $200,000. To bad people. A murmur went through the courtroom. And these bad people have made threats? They beat him up this weekend. They said if we don't pay by the end of the month, they'll... Michelle's voice broke. They'll hurt the kids. Judge Morrison's expression hardened. And you thought the solution was to steal from your elderly mother rather than, say, going to the police. Michelle had no answer for that. The judge looked at her notes for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was firm. Here's my ruling. Temporary custody remains with Ruth Washington for 90 days. During that time, Michelle Patterson, you will undergo a psychological evaluation, complete a financial management course, and attend family therapy. Brad Patterson, you will attend gambling addiction treatment and cooperate fully with law enforcement regarding these threats. Your Honor, Michelle's lawyer started. I'm not finished, Judge Morrison said sharply. You will both stay away from Mrs. Washington's home unless supervised visitation is arranged through the court. You will make no financial demands, no threats, and no attempts to manipulate or coerce. You will also cooperate fully with the elder abuse investigation. If you complete all requirements and demonstrate stability, we'll revisit custody at the 90-day mark. If you violate any of these conditions, you'll lose custody permanently. Is that clear? Yes, Your Honor, Michelle whispered. As for the civil and criminal matters, those will proceed separately. This court has no jurisdiction over those, but I'm noting for the record that the behavior alleged here, if proven, is reprehensible and warrants full prosecution. Judge Morrison looked at me. Mrs. Washington, You'll have sole physical and legal custody for 90 days. Use that time wisely. Help those children process what's happened. And, she paused, her expression softening slightly, take care of yourself. You've been through a trauma too. Thank you, Your Honor, I said, my voice thick with emotion. We left the courtroom to applause from the gallery. Michelle and Brad slipped out a side door, avoiding the cameras and the crowd. Outside, the news crews swarmed. Darius was there, along with reporters from 3 other stations and 2 newspapers. Mrs. Washington, how do you feel about the judge's decision? I feel like justice was served, I said simply. And I feel grateful to everyone who stood by me. Will you pursue criminal charges? That's up to the district attorney. But I hope they do. Not because I want revenge, I just want Michelle to face consequences so she learns and changes. What's next for you? I looked at Tom, who was smiling. What's next is I'm going home to my grandbabies. I'm going to make them my famous fried chicken for dinner. And I'm going to live my life surrounded by people who actually love me. That night, the story was everywhere. Not just local news, national news. CNN picked it up. The Washington Post wrote an article. My story became part of a larger conversation about elder abuse, about family betrayal, about fighting back. Tuesday morning, I got a call from the district attorney's office. They were filing criminal charges against Michelle and Brad. Elder abuse, fraud, attempted extortion. The penalties could include prison time. Wednesday, the trust company managing Shanice's estate sent a certified letter. Michelle's trust fund was officially terminated due to the morality clause. $10 million? Gone. The money would go to charity, specifically to organizations fighting elder abuse. Shanice would have liked that, I thought. Thursday. Exactly 1 week after Michelle had stood in my kitchen demanding I sign my life away, I got an unexpected visitor. It was Brad. He stood on my porch looking broken, his face still bruised, his clothes wrinkled, his eyes red from crying. Ruth, he said, his voice hoarse. Can we talk? I should have said no. I should have called the police. He was violating the restraining order. But something in his face made me pause. You have 5 minutes, I said, not letting him inside. I need you to know Michelle didn't want to do it, he said in a rush. The whole plan, it was me. I pressured her. I told her we'd lose the house, lose everything. I told her you'd be fine, that you'd be taken care of in the nursing home. I convinced her it was the right thing. Why are you telling me this? Because she's falling apart, Brad said, tears streaming down his face. She hasn't eaten in 3 days. She just cries and stares at pictures of the kids. She keeps saying she destroyed everything, that she's just like her real mother, abandoning her children. My heart cracked a little. Michelle thought Shanice abandoned her? All these years, she'd thought. Shanice didn't abandon her, I said quietly. She died in a car accident. She loved Michelle more than anything. Michelle doesn't believe that. She said if Shanice really loved her, she wouldn't have left her alone. Oh, baby girl, I thought. Oh, Michelle, you've been carrying that pain all this time. Brad, I said carefully, are you asking me to drop the charges? No, he said, surprising me. We deserve to be charged. What we did was terrible. I wanted you to know Michelle's not a monster. She's broken. She's been broken for a long time, and I made it worse. And what about you? I asked. The gambling? The debts? I'm checking into rehab tomorrow. The court's ordering it anyway, but I want to do it. I want to get better. I want to be someone my kids can respect again. I looked at this man who'd helped destroy my life, who'd threatened me, who'd plotted to steal from me. And I saw something I hadn't expected. I saw genuine remorse. Brad, I said slowly, I can't forgive you yet. Maybe not ever. What you and Michelle did was unforgivable in a lot of ways. But I appreciate you telling me the truth. Can I... Can I see the kids? Just for a minute? Just to tell them I'm sorry? I thought about it. Judge Morrison had said supervised visitation could be arranged. Not today, I said. But I'll talk to Patricia about setting something up. Supervised, brief, and only if the kids want to see you. Brad nodded, new tears falling. Thank you. Thank you, Ruth. He left, and I stood on my porch for a long time, thinking. Friday morning, Tom came by with Patricia and the trust company representative. Ruth, Tom said, pulling me to sit on my couch. We need to talk about something important. Oh, Lord, I thought. What now? You know I've been planning to leave everything to you, Tom said. Well, I had my will updated yesterday. It's official. You're my sole heir. Tom, your children... My children each have trust funds worth $5 million. My grandchildren have college funds. They're set. You're the one who needs protection, and you're the one who'll use the money to help others. I know you, Ruth. You'll give half of it away within a year. He wasn't wrong. There's something else, Patricia said. The trust company has a proposition. They want to use Michelle's forfeited trust fund, the $10 million, to establish a foundation in Shanice's name. The Ruth and Shanice Foundation for Elder Protection and Family Healing. You'd be the director. You'd use the money to help other seniors facing abuse, to provide legal assistance, counseling, everything you wished you'd had. I couldn't speak. A foundation? In Shanice's name and mine? It would mean Michelle's terrible choices would end up helping thousands of people, the trust representative said. It would mean something good comes from something bad. Shanice would love that, I whispered. She always wanted to help people. There's one more thing, Tom said. He pulled out an envelope, another one of his famous letters. Shanice left this for Michelle. It was supposed to be given to her on her 30th birthday, but I never gave it to her because I was testing her and she kept failing. But I think now might be the right time. I took the letter, feeling Shanice's presence so strongly I almost looked around for her. Should I give it to her? I asked. I think you should read it first, Tom said. Then decide. I opened the envelope with shaking hands and pulled out pages and pages in Shanice's familiar handwriting. My dearest Michelle, it began. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I won't be there to see you grow up, to celebrate your victories, to comfort you through your heartbreaks. But I want you to know something. Leaving you was not a choice. Death is not abandonment. Death is just the end of my time with you, not the end of my love for you. I chose Ruth to raise you because she has the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known. She will love you like I would have loved you, completely, unconditionally, fiercely. Trust her. Let her love you. Don't push her away because you're afraid of losing another mother. She's not going anywhere. I'm leaving you money because I want you to have security, but please don't let it define you. Money is a tool, not a purpose. Use it to build a life you're proud of. Use it to help others. Don't let it make you greedy or cruel. Most importantly, baby girl, know this. You are loved. You were loved from the moment I knew you existed. You were loved through every second of my life. And you'll be loved by Ruth and Tom and everyone else I'm leaving you with. Let them love you. Let yourself be happy. Your mother always, Shanice. I was crying so hard I could barely see the words. I need to give this to Michelle, I said. She needs to know her mother didn't abandon her. She needs to understand. That Saturday, I arranged a visit with Michelle, supervised at Patricia's office with Tom present. Michelle arrived looking like a ghost, thin, pale, hollow-eyed. When she saw me, she flinched like she expected me to hit her. I'm not here to hurt you, I said gently. I'm here to give you something. I handed her Shanice's letter. Michelle's hands shook as she read it. By the second paragraph, she was sobbing. By the end, she was on her knees on the floor, wailing like a child. I knelt beside her, my old knees protesting, and pulled her into my arms like I used to when she was little. "She loved you," I whispered. "She loved you so much, baby, and I love you too. Even after everything, I still love you." "I'm so sorry," Michelle sobbed into my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Mama. I was so angry. I thought she left me. I thought everyone always leaves me. I thought if I had enough money, I'd never feel abandoned again. I'm so sorry." "I know, baby," I said, rocking her. "I know." We stayed like that for a long time, two broken women holding each other, while Tom and Patricia quietly left the room to give us privacy. "I don't expect you to forgive me," Michelle said eventually, pulling back and wiping her face. "I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm going to get help, real help. I'm going to figure out why I'm so broken and fix it." "That's all I want," I said. "I want you to be whole. I want you to be the woman Shanice believed you could be." Can I earn my way back?" Michelle asked hesitantly. "Not to your money. I don't want your money. To your life? To the kids' lives?" "That depends on you," I said honestly. "You have to do the work. You have to prove you've changed. And even then, it might take years to rebuild trust." "I'll do it," Michelle said with more determination than I'd heard from her in years. "However long it takes, I'll do it." 3 months later, I stood in front of a room full of reporters, community leaders, and elected officials. Tom was beside me, along with Patricia, Detective Okonkwo, and representatives from 3 elder advocacy organizations. "Today," I said into the microphone, my voice steady and strong, "we're announcing the launch of the Ruth and Shanice Foundation for Elder Protection and Family Healing. This foundation will provide free legal assistance to seniors facing financial abuse, counseling for families in crisis, and education about elder rights." The crowd applauded. "This foundation exists because my daughter Michelle tried to steal my life from me," I continued. "But instead of letting that destroy me, I'm letting it save others. Every penny Michelle lost from her trust fund is going to help families heal and seniors stay safe." More applause. "I also want to announce that my brother Tom, who many of you thought was a simple retired janitor, has donated $50 million to establish additional programs, including a legal clinic, a crisis hotline, and emergency housing for seniors displaced by family abuse." The room erupted. Tom waved, looking embarrassed by the attention. "Finally," I said, "I want to say something to anyone watching who might be going through what I went through. You are not alone. You are not powerless. You do not have to accept abuse from anyone, even family. Speak up. Fight back. Find your people, your real family, the ones who love you for you. Not for what you can give them. We're here to help you." The press conference was covered by every major news outlet. The Foundation's hotline received over 1,000 calls in the first week. Donations poured in from across the country. Michelle completed her 90 days and got supervised visitation with the kids. She was doing the work: therapy 3 times a week, financial counseling, volunteering at an elder care facility to understand what she'd almost done to me. Brad completed rehab and was working as a counselor for other gambling addicts. He'd divorced Michelle. They both agreed the marriage was toxic, but they were co-parenting peacefully. The criminal charges were resolved with a plea deal. Michelle and Brad both pled guilty to elder financial abuse and fraud. They got probation, community service, and mandatory continued treatment instead of prison time. Part of their community service was speaking at schools and community centers about elder abuse. 6 months after that terrible Thursday in my kitchen, I hosted Sunday dinner at my house. The table was full, not with Michelle and Brad, we weren't there yet, but with my church family, my neighbors, Tom and his family, Patricia, Detective Okonkwo, who'd become a friend, and my 3 grandbabies. Candace said grace, her voice clear and strong. Dear Lord, thank you for Grandma's courage. Thank you for showing us what real love looks like. Thank you for second chances and new beginnings. Amen. Amen, we all echoed. As we passed platters of fried chicken, collard greens, mac and cheese, and cornbread, I looked around that table and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Pure, complete, unshakable peace. A year later, Michelle came to Sunday dinner for the first time. She'd earned it. A year of therapy, a year of changed behavior, a year of putting her children first. She stood at my door, holding a sweet potato pie she'd baked herself, and I saw my baby girl again. Really saw her. Hi, Mama, she said quietly. Hi, baby, I said. We had a long way to go. Trust wasn't rebuilt in a day or a month or even a year, but we were trying. And sometimes trying is enough. 2 years after everything fell apart, I stood in the same courtroom where Judge Morrison had given me temporary custody. This time we were finalizing permanent custody arrangements. Michelle stood before the judge, and she'd changed, really changed. She had a job now, working at the foundation, helping other families avoid the mistakes she'd made. She'd written a book about her experience, with all proceeds going to elder abuse prevention. She'd become an advocate. Your Honor, Michelle said, I'm not asking for custody back. My children are thriving with my mother. They're happy, stable, loved. What I'm asking for is expanded visitation and the chance to be part of their lives in a healthy way. Judge Morrison looked at Candace, who was now 16 and allowed to speak for herself. What do you want, Candace? The judge asked. My granddaughter stood up, tall and proud. I want to live with Grandma. She's been the stable force in my life. But I also want to see my mom. She's different now. She's actually trying. I think we can have both. The judge smiled. I think you can too. The final order gave me permanent custody with generous visitation for Michelle. It was fair. It was right. That night, Michelle, the kids, Tom, and I had dinner together, the first time in 2 years. It was awkward at first, but then little Jerome spilled his grape juice, and we all laughed, and it felt almost normal. Mama, Michelle said as she was leaving, can I ask you something? Anything, baby. Do you think Mom, Shanice, would be proud of me now? After everything I did wrong, do you think she'd still love me? I pulled her close. Baby girl, Shanice loved you unconditionally, just like I do. She'd be heartbroken at what you went through, but she'd be so proud of who you're becoming. Michelle cried then, and I held her, and it felt like maybe, just maybe, we were going to be okay. 3 years later, the Ruth and Shanice Foundation had helped over 10,000 seniors and their families. We'd passed legislation strengthening elder abuse protections. We'd trained thousands of professionals to recognize and report abuse. We'd changed lives. I was 76 now, slowing down a bit, but still fighting. Michelle was thriving, 3 years sober from her money addiction, healthy, happy, a good mother to her children who now split time between us peacefully. Tom had become a national spokesperson for elder rights, using his status as a retired federal judge to push for policy changes. And me? I was just grateful. Grateful I'd fought back. Grateful I'd had people who stood with me. Grateful for second chances and new beginnings. Every Thursday afternoon, I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where this all started, and I talked to Shanice. I told her about Michelle's progress, about the grandkids' achievements, about the lives we were saving through the foundation. We did good, girl, I said to the empty kitchen. Your baby's gonna be all right. She lost her way for a while, but she found it again, just like you knew she would. The November sun streamed through those yellow curtains, and Shirley Caesar played on the radio, and I felt Shanice's presence so strongly I could almost smell her perfume. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you for trusting me with her. Thank you for giving me purpose even after you were gone. Thank you for the foundation, the mission, all of it. The wind chimes on my porch rang, the ones Shanice had given me years ago, and I smiled. Yeah, girl, I said. I hear you. I love you too. I gave my children everything for 40 years, and it took them 40 minutes to try to destroy me, but it only took me 40 seconds to decide to fight back. And that made all the difference. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.